Hey, I'm Jake. I make RPG supplements and videos about Pathfinder 2 or 2. And other stuff like psychology and like news and stuff. Anyway, so today we're going to be continuing our journey into the undead archetypes with the zombie.
Main topic tonight. Brains!
So, first I'm going to read the description of the class, archetype, and I'm going to describe things along the way. So this is going to be a super in-depth deep dive with my ideas to expand it afterward. Zombie. Source, Book of the Dead, page 60. You are a zombie. A rotting corpse animated by necromantic magic. Although most zombies are mindless brutes, you're a husk zombie. I just put my finger in a cat's mouth. Didn't know that. Preserved through necromantic rites and alchemical reagents. The process worked especially well on you, and you retained your intelligence and identity to a far greater degree than other husk zombies. Back up. It's not easy being a corpse. Your body continues to rot and putrefy, and the stench is ever present. I love any archetype or class that has the word putrefy in it. Your old self keeps slipping away more and more as the weeks pass by. Your reflexes have slowed, you're beginning to lose your sense of touch, and your emotions are dulling. As your body continues to decay, so too does your mind. Your memory's not perfect, and although you haven't noticed any huge gaps or flaws yet, you have a feeling they're there somewhere. Unlike your other senses, your hunger has intensified. Hunger isn't a sense. Anyway, I'll keep reading. You ceaselessly crave the raw flesh and brains of the living. The smarter, the better. And satisfying this hunger is the only thing that makes you feel alive. When you eat, you're reinvigorated. Feeling returns and the constant mental torpor you live under vanishes. You feel like yourself again. For a time. One day you might be nothing more than a walking corpse, but for now, you retain your personality and your free will. Feeding your hunger might allow you to remain that way. So full of flavor, I love it. Zombie dedication, feat 2. It's rare, like all of the undead archetypes. Prerequisites, you died and were animated as a husk zombie. Well, if we're a husk zombie, we should know what that is. So let's look at that. Husk zombie. Rather than allow a body to rot, some necromancers attempt to dry cure the corpse to prevent further deterioration. Sounds like a mummy to me. Combined with special reagents, this process can preserve a rudimentary form of intelligence, allowing husk zombies to act more like predators than their mindless kin. Most husk zombies have no memories of their prior lives, though some keep trinkets from that time, oblivious as to why they value such items. A rare few husk zombies retain most of their former knowledge, though they tend to have gaps in their memory. So husk zombies are generally not what you think of when there's like movie zombies. Those are usually more like ghouls in Pathfinder 2 and D&D. And husk zombies usually have a sneak attack and a sudden surge to give them extra movement speed. Those are the main differences between what the archetype gives you. Yeah. Back to zombie dedication. Despite your death and subsequent reanimation as a rotting corpse, you retain most of your mind and identity. Yet it's always there, the hunger for the flesh and organs of the living. You gain the undead and zombie traits and the basic undead benefits. Unlike a typical zombie, you're not mindless. Reduce all your speeds by 5 feet. Your fist loses the non-lethal trait, so that's convenient. That right there is pretty cool. Because of its progressing state of decay, your body requires continual maintenance to remain at its best. Each day after your rest period, your body is deteriorated due to natural decay. Additionally, some zombie abilities allow you to push for a greater effect in exchange for a chance of deteriorating your body. While your body is deteriorated, you're slowed 1. Let's skip to slowed for a second. Slowed. You have fewer actions. Slowed always includes a value. When you regain your actions at the start of your turn, reduce the number of actions you regain by your slowed value. Because slowed has its effect at the start of your turn, you don't immediately lose actions if you become slowed during your turn. Back to zombie. While your body is deteriorated, you're slowed 1. You can spend 10 minutes checking and repairing your joints and other weak parts of your body to recover from deterioration. You can perform these repairs as part of your daily preparations. Because it's a natural result of your body's functions, you can't remove the slowed condition from deterioration through any other means. You crave the flesh of the living. You gain a Jaws unarmed attack that deals 1d8 piercing damage. That's good. Your Jaws are in the Brawling group and have the unarmed trait. You can use your Jaws strike only against a creature that's grabbed or restrained by you. That's not good. Special. You can't select another dedication feat until you've gained 2 other feats from the zombie archetype, like all archetypes. Before we go on to the first non-dedication feat, we should cover what this gives you. So it gives you the undead and zombie traits and basic undead benefits. Let's look at undead. Undead. The undead trait says, once living, these creatures were infused after death with negative energy and soul-corrupting evil magic. When reduced to 0 hit points, an undead creature is destroyed. Undead creatures are damaged by positive energy, are healed by negative energy, and don't benefit from healing effects. And then the zombie trait. These undead are mindless rotting corpses that hunger for living flesh. That's great. That does so much for you. That's neat. Okay. And then the basic undead benefits. Basic undead benefits. If you've already heard all this part, then skip to this time here. The archetypes and skeleton ancestry that follow can give the basic undead benefits detailed here. These are somewhat different from the normal undead creature abilities to better fit player characters. Necral. You know the necral language. The language of the dead, which doesn't make any sense. I'd probably make this like a general understanding of each other. Like you just look at each other and you know. Like more clumsy telepathy. Undead vision. You gain low light vision, or you gain dark vision if your ancestry already has low light vision. Negative healing. You are damaged by positive damage and aren't healed by positive healing effects. You don't take negative damage and are healed by negative effects that heal undead. That by itself can be freaking awesome depending on the adventure. Because you're just immune to negative damage by taking the archetype. That's amazing. Or void damage after the remastery. Negative survival. Unlike normal undead, you aren't destroyed when reduced to 0 hit points. Instead, powerful negative energy attempts to keep you from being destroyed even in dire straits. You are knocked out and begin dying when reduced to 0 hit points. Because you're undead, many methods of bringing someone back from dying, such as stabilize, don't benefit you. When you would die, you're destroyed rather than dead, just like other undead. Okay, you're still a player character. That's really all that means. Immunity to death effects. You're immune to death effects. This keeps you from being automatically killed or having your dying value automatically increase, but it doesn't make you immune to other parts of the spell or effect. For example, you can still take mental damage and become frightened from a phantasmal killer, you just don't instantly die from it. Niche, but can be useful. Disease and poison protection. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus to saving throws or any other defense against disease and poison. Obviously that's useful for all characters. I think all undead should be immune to that, even if you're a player, because you don't have an active biology. That's what undead means. Undead hunger. While you don't eat or drink the same food as humanoids do, you usually have thirsts and hungers related to your undead state, such as a ghoul's hunger for humanoid flesh, a zombie's craving for brains, and a vampire's desire for blood. Additionally, while you don't sleep, you enter a state of quiescence for at least 4 hours a day to recuperate, which lets your undead flesh reknit and recover naturally. Many undead choose to rest when the sun is at its highest. So to me, that's the main reason to take zombie, or any undead archetype, because you get a lot of resistances, and it fundamentally changes a variety of things about your character. It feels like your character is set apart from others. It's neat. Back to zombie. Ankle biter, level 4 feet. You fight just as well on the ground as you do standing up. While you are prone, you are always taking cover against ranged attacks. You ignore the status penalty on your attack rolls from being prone, and you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to athletics checks to trip. You can choose to move up to half your speed when you crawl. You can instead move up to your full speed when you crawl, but if you do, you must succeed at a DC 6 flat check or your body deteriorates. This is a very interesting mechanic, and I think they don't use it enough in this archetype. It comes up a few times, we're going to read those, but I think they should do more with the deterioration, because that's what the zombie is about. You're falling apart. You're decaying. Anyway, Ankle Biter, situationally, it's useful. Really, the main thing that will always be useful is you gain +1 on athletics checks to trip. I don't think that's worth a 4th level feat. So think about it. If you plan on falling down a lot, or you want to be able to crawl fast, think about taking this. So yeah, not many people. Next level 4 feat, Bashing Charge. It's 2 actions. You smash, bust, and charge through solid obstacles without hesitation. Stride twice. Once during your movement. If your movement passes through or ends adjacent to a door, window, fence, wall, or similar obstacle, you can attempt an athletics check to force open the obstacle with a +1 circumstance bonus to the roll. On a failure, your movement ends at that obstacle. This is great. This is the same exact thing as the Barbarian Bashing Charge, except it's level 4 instead of level 2. And the +1 it gives you is basically having a crowbar. So, like, your fists are a crowbar. So that's kind of cool. It's not always going to be useful, but if you're a melee character, which is the only reason you would take zombie, it can be extremely convenient. Do bear in mind, your speed has been reduced by taking the archetype. So you'll probably need to spend at least 1 feat, general or ancestry, on being faster, just so you're up with everybody else. Oh, and the reduction to speed in general, I don't think it's much of a problem, primarily because when you're adventuring from location to location, nobody counts it. And when you are in a battle, that 5 feet can matter. It can. But it usually won't be really important. You can always spend an extra action to move extra. It's just nice to have that little bump of 5 or even 10 feet if you can manage it. Ooh. A zombie Magus. A zombie laughing shadow. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Anyway. Next level 4 feat, Combat Grab. It's 1 action. It's a fighter feat and it has the press trait, which means you can't do it as the first action in the round. You have to have attacked first. So you're going to have at least a -4 to this action. Requirements. You have 1 hand free and your target is within reach of that hand. You swipe at your opponent and grab at them. Make a melee strike while keeping 1 hand free. If the strike hits, you grab the target using your free hand. The creature remains grabbed until the end of your next turn or until it escapes, whichever comes first. This is extremely useful because grabbing, pinning, restraining are the only ways that you can use your bite. It's just a stipulation of the archetype. So I strongly suggest taking this because you want to be able to grab people. Later on, other feats apply to it as well. You gain a benefit if you can grab people. So you want some sort of grab ability. Speaking of grab, that next level 4 feat is Crushing Grab. This is normally a monk feat or wrestler or, well, zombie, obviously. Like a powerful constrictor, you crush targets in your unyielding grasp. When you successfully grapple a creature, you can deal bludgeoning damage to that creature equal to your strength modifier. You can make this attack non-lethal with no penalty. This is only good at low levels. Because eventually, your strength modifier is going to be far surpassed by any other modifier you'll be using. Your class DC, skills, anything. So maybe retrain it later. Sure, you could start off with it. It'll help you do a little bit more damage. But that's really only a little bit more damage. I don't think it's worth it for a feat. Especially when you can take the next level 4 feat, Feast. It's 2 actions, it has the manipulate trait. Requirements. You are adjacent to a restrained or unconscious creature or a deceased creature that died in the past hour. So it's another thing that you want to be able to grapple for. You feast upon an adjacent restrained or unconscious creature or a deceased creature that died in the past hour. If the creature is alive, you deal damage equal to your Jaws damage. Whether it's alive or not, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to half your level that last for 1 minute. That's cool. You can instead choose to gain temporary hit points equal to double your level instead of half your level. Wow. But if you do, you must succeed at a DC 6 flat check or your body deteriorates. There is one reason later to make your body deteriorate. That's really the only thing that gets benefited by it. But still, in a pinch, to quadruple the amount of temporary hit points it normally grants, so from half your level to double your level, that's how that math works, can be extremely important. What I love the most about this is really nothing it does. It's that it would be mechanically efficient to carry around your last victim for about an hour. So, like, you know, you're in some abandoned temple or, I don't know, sunken castle, and you're just, like, dragging along an ogre.
I might need him later.
Feast is the entire feel of this archetype. If you don't take Feast, why are you taking Zombie? Because this lets you eat the dead. Yes! Alright, next level 4 feat. Ravenous Charge. It has the open trait, so you have to do this as your first action in a round if you're going to use it. It takes 2 actions, level 4 feat. Hungry for the flesh of the living, you hurl yourself into the fray, teeth gnashing, you stride. If you end your movement within melee reach of a living creature, you can make an athletics check to grapple that creature. If you succeed, you then make a jaws strike against that creature. Okay. It's not that amazing. Yes, it is a slight action economy, but it's slight. Like, you could spend the 2 actions striding, which is part of this anyway, so that's equal. And then the second action, instead of using this, you could try to grapple or make an attack. If the purpose of grappling is to make that jaws strike, you could just hit him with a longsword. There's not much benefit to this. Fine, there's a slight one, because the jaws does so much damage. So what? It's not worth taking. Really, it's not worth taking ever. So, like, I think that any GM out there who's just kind to the player who wants to take this archetype should just, like, make it a little bit better. Like, even if you miss the grapple, you get a jaws strike, because otherwise you don't get a jaws strike unless you're grappling. I don't know. Level 6 feat. Brains. It's a free action. Prerequisites: feast, because you have to be able to eat bodies before you can eat brains. Trigger: you feast upon a humanoid's brain. The humanoid can't be mindless, or if you're feasting on a corpse, can't have been mindless while alive. So this specifies that with feast, you could have eaten people's brains, which is funny. You consume the brains of your foe, causing synapses long rotten to fire and enabling you to shake off your mental torpor. You gain a +1 status bonus on skill checks to recall knowledge for 1 hour. If the humanoid had a higher modifier to the skill check you're using to recall knowledge than you do, the status bonus increases to +2. This is shit. Okay, I know. You could be like a thaumaturge using esoteric lore. Well, actually, I don't know if that's a recall knowledge check. It is. Esoteric lore is a recall knowledge check, which y'all probably knew. I just forgot. So, okay, it gives you a little bit of bonus to that. And +1s and +2s do matter. Is it worth a 6th level feat? When it only functions if you're already feasting. Like, abilities that depend on other abilities to happen have to be weighed against the action cost or the difficulty of using that first ability. And feast is only going to be if they are restrained, unconscious, or already dead. And restrained is pretty hard to do. You have to be good at athletics. Fine, you can still do it. But to do all of those things, to succeed on the athletics check, restrain someone, bite them, and then get +1 or +2 to your recall knowledge check, did that really matter? I don't think so. It won't really do a lot. So, sadly, the one feat that has the word that all zombies are famous for, brains, sucks. Alright, so I would modify it because it sucks. So, instead of it doing this, I would say that for the next hour, you don't have your -5 foot speed penalty. Like, you're enlivened. And that kind of makes sense to me. Like, zombies seek out brains in movies, and it doesn't always help them. It sometimes does. But if this is what you're supposed to be doing as part of being a zombie, eating brains, which it is, and the zombie's biggest drawback is that your movement speed is slowed, or your movement rate is reduced and you could be slowed, then negating that seems like a great benefit for eating brains. It's totally on brand. It makes sense for a zombie. So just ignore the recall knowledge and say that you have normal movement rate, or 5 more, for the next hour. People will like it. They'll actually go out of their way to do it. Next level 6 feat, Numb. I love all of these. They're good names. As your body continues to rot and putrefy, your senses deaden and your undead powers grow. You gain the advanced undead benefits, as well as a +1 circumstance bonus on saving throws against emotion and pain effects, which totally makes sense for a zombie. You're dead. While your body is deteriorated, your numbness amplifies in 2 ways. The circumstance bonus from this feat increases to +2, so +2 against emotion and pain effects. And if you roll a success on a saving throw against an emotion or pain effect, you get a critical success instead. Okay, so the second part is like a minor benefit, but it can be useful, and it totally fits the theme. But let's look at the advanced undead benefits. Dark vision. You gain dark vision if you don't already have it. Greater disease and poison protection. Your bonus against disease and poison increases to +2. You gain poison resistance equal to half your level. That's great. The poison resistance alone is worth taking this feat. So, dark vision, better at saving against diseases and poisons, poison resistance, and lastly, paralysis and sleep protection. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus to saving throws or any other defense against effects that would make you paralyzed or have the sleep trait. Not going to come up much, but that's okay. This is still worth taking. Numb is a really good feat. You get several minor benefits and poison resistance. That's great. That's a really useful feat. Level 8 feat, Out of Hand. You can tell which ones I like because I'm always grinning right before I read it. Even when your limbs are severed, they remain a part of you. When an arm is severed from your body, it gains the minion trait. While severed, your limb has the statistics of a familiar without any familiar or master abilities, except its speed is 5 feet. It can't move further than 100 feet from you. It can interact with things, which a familiar can't do normally, and it can still make any unarmed strikes it could have made while attached to you, usually a fist strike, or it could be like a claw, depending on your ancestry. Any strikes it makes share your multiple attack penalty and use your attack bonus and damage. So it gets your full strength modifier, so that's cool. If your arm is reduced to 0 hit points, or is ever more than 100 feet from you, it becomes inert until reattached. It's not destroyed. The GM might allow you to detach other limbs that have unarmed attacks using the below action. For example, if you're a tiefling with Form of the Fiend giving you a tail unarmed attack. You gain the lay down arms action. Lay down arms, 1 action. You pull your arm off, harmlessly severing it from your body and dropping it in an adjacent square. You can also use this action to reattach your severed arm if it's adjacent to you. It immediately functions normally. If the detached limb was at 0 hit points, it takes 10 minutes to reattach it instead of a single action. So this is like amusing, obviously, and it would gross people out. Those, for me, are good enough reason to take the 8th level feat. However, it's also sometimes mechanically useful. Like, it can interact with things and make unarmed strikes that it could have made while attached to you. So you could actually like take off your arm, leave it behind to like keep fighting an enemy, or like, you know, to be helping your ally kill an enemy, and then you move on to a different enemy because you still have your full movement rate and it doesn't have to move anywhere. So you just, you're like an ex-soldier and you just go, present arm! And you throw it down in front of your ally. You fight on two fronts then. You fight your ally's enemy and another one. It is a little bit useful and it's funny as hell. Just take it. Just for me, take it. I know it's not always going to be useful. Yeah, it's mostly funny. Level 8 feat, Shamble, 2 actions or 3 actions. You may be slower than you were in life, but your pace is unfaltering. Stride twice or 3 times if you spent 3 actions to shamble. During this movement, you ignore difficult terrain and greater difficult terrain. You can choose to ignore all circumstance and status penalties to your speed when you shamble. If you do, you must succeed at a DC 6 flat check when you finish shambling or your body deteriorates. Extra movement is never bad, and, well, it's not extra movement, but ignoring a reduction in movement is great, especially for you because your movement sucks. And for all, I think, pre-made adventures sold by Paizo for Pathfinder 2, you're going to have some sort, at some point, some sort of slowing due to terrain. I think it's always going to be useful to take. So I would take it just in case, because your movement rate already makes you suffer a lot in combat. Especially if you're a melee person, which you are if you took this archetype. Unkillable, also a level 8 feat. This is an awesome one. I love how low level most of these are that are really cool. Unkillable. It's a reaction. Frequency once per hour. Like I said, level 8 feat. Trigger, you would be reduced to 0 hit points. You're relentless and nigh unkillable, shrugging off blows that should destroy you, though they might make your body start to fall apart. You are reduced to 1 hit point instead of 0 hit points. You must succeed at a DC 6 flat check or your body deteriorates. There's no check, no roll to do this. As soon as you take a hit that would drop you to 0, you just say, no thank you. You might be slowed for the rest of the encounter. Slowed 1. But that's better than going to 0. You just don't get any dying or wounded condition. Wonderful feat. This feat is the best feat in the archetype, I believe. Because it works for anyone. And it's always going to come up at some point. Especially if your GM's a dick like me and throws oozes at you. Next feat. Level 12, Festering Wound. It has the tags Disease, Divine, and Necromancy. Wounds you inflict with your unarmed attacks fester and rot, becoming infected and difficult to heal. The DC to treat these wounds using medicine increases by 5, and magically or alchemically healing these wounds requires a counteract check against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher. Succeeding at any of these removes the disease. The effect also ends if the creature is healed to full hit points by any means. This will never matter for a PC. There's no point in taking this. If it were an NPC, I could see a GM using this against the PCs because then it's really annoying. But when is this going to matter for a PC? At 12th level. You're going to hit an enemy that can somehow survive your encounter so that they suffer a little bit after they run away from you? Like, come on. This isn't even good. And I don't even know what to do with it, to modify it, to make it better. I would just delete it. I mean, I guess you could say, like, you do additional poison damage equal to, I don't know, maybe like 1d6. But that's not worth a feat either. Tell me what you think of Festering Wound. How would you modify it? Because obviously anybody can just ignore it. Level 14 feat. Corpse Stench. The one I know you were all waiting for. It has the traits Aura and Olfactory. This is also part of the Ghoul archetype, but we'll talk about that one later. It's also really cool. Your body exudes an overwhelming scent of decay and a 10-foot emanation, so putrid that it nauseates creatures within that range. Any creature that starts its turn in the aura must succeed at a fortitude save against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher, or be sickened 1. plus slowed 1 on a critical failure. While within the aura, the creature takes a -2 circumstance penalty to saves against disease and to recover from the sickened condition. A creature that succeeds at its save is temporarily immune to corpse stench for 1 minute. Okay. Obviously awesome. Useful in melee. Always useful in melee because it's a 10-foot emanation. And it says any creature. Let's put aside the negatives of that for a moment. Any creature. So unless the creature says specifically that they're immune to sickened, they can suffer from this. That's great versatility. And now the downside, every member of your party that's within that range also suffers from this, and that sucks. But that could be strategized around. I'm actually okay not changing that, when usually I want to change that so that it's easier for the player to choose this ability and use it. However, I think that this would be okay. I mean, obviously for role-playing it's fun too. Like, you can't sit at the same tavern table as your friends because you stink so bad. You can't suppress this or turn it off. You just smell for the rest of your afterlife. Anyway, maybe you could like house rule something if you want your other PCs to be able to deal with this character well. Like, if you put nose plugs in, you don't have to make the saving throw, or you just get like -1 to something for a while you're near that person. It's just, the slowing your friends sucks, but the sickening your friends sucks for roleplay. And of course, it sucks in general. Sickened is a horrible condition. And in roleplay, you're just never going to be the face of the party again. You're just never going to be in face-to-face communication with any important person. Which is fine if you're a fighter or barbarian or somebody else that just doesn't give a damn about talking to people. Yes, fighters and barbarians don't give a damn about talking to people. Last feat, also level 14, Seize. This is a flourish, so you can only do it once per turn. Requirements. Your last action was a successful fist strike against a creature no more than one size larger than you, which is pretty damn easy to do. You seize your foe and pull it close. The foe you hit is grabbed as if you succeeded at an athletics check to grapple the foe. Wonderful. You can use this to hit an ogre and you immediately grab them and you pull it close to you. And then, of course, you bite them and then you eat their flesh and then you gain temporary hit points. This is perfect. This is a great, it takes one action to do. This is a great, wonderful, perfect feat. Okay, so I guess there are two that I thought were amazing. Seize and Unkillable. Because Seize makes everything this archetype does easier to do. And Unkillable helps anyone who takes this archetype. I am surprised that the zombie archetype is so good. I actually like it. And that is hard for me to say about a lot of things like the ghost. But the zombie, you could do this. You could have a party full of zombies. Or you could just have a player choose to be a zombie after they die because it's fun and weird and interesting roleplay. I highly recommend making somebody in the group odd. Like in the game I'm currently running, the Slithering, Red Devil is playing a character who has been turned to slime-ish. So she's been gaining slime powers and she's been disfigured and tastes with her feet and hands. It's weird, but it's interesting. Yes, yes, add to your roleplay creativity. Add strange things. Alright, now that we have talked about the zombie archetype as a whole, I want to talk about things you can do to this in addition to what it says. Let's open Husk Zombie. Because, of course, I'm on Archives of Nethys, because why would you ever use a book? This is just easier. And you can't click on links in a book. So, you know, this is cool. Alright. So the Husk Zombie has a section on zombie abilities and a section on additional monster abilities. Yeah. And also the Husk Zombie itself has two abilities that this archetype doesn't give. It has sneak attack, which there's not really any reason to give to the archetype. I love you. It's okay. So one ability that the Husk zombie has that's pretty cool is Sudden Surge. It's a free action, trigger, the Husk zombie's turn begins. Effect, the Husk zombie has a sudden burst of speed. They are quickened this turn, and can use the extra action only to stride or strike. If the Husk zombie's first action this turn is a melee strike, the target is flat-footed against the attack. The Husk zombie can't use Sudden Charge again until after they spend at least 10 minutes standing motionless. I think there is no reason that you cannot take this and put it into the archetype. Maybe 4th level feat, allow it to function just the same, except the target isn't flat-footed against the attack, because you can do that different ways as a player. And it's just unnecessary to give it that extra boost. It's already pretty cool. And so this is an extra attack, or an extra 20 feet of movement. This is really good. So I think that would be really cool as a 4th level feat added to the archetype. It's just useful. And it also fits, I don't know, a lot of media concepts of zombies instead of zombies, the super fast ones that run at your face and bite you. Now, the next section, zombie abilities. Some of them are already in the archetype, which is fitting. That makes sense. Unkillable, Rotting Aura, Feast, they're all in the archetype. Disgusting Pustules is an interesting one. The zombie is covered in pustules that rupture when it takes any piercing damage or any critical hit. In either case, adjacent creatures are hit with vile fluid, causing them to become sickened 1 unless they succeed at a fortitude save. This is good. I think this would fit a 6th level feat. That you have a lot of options with this archetype. I think 6th level is fine, 8th level is also okay. Just keep it as it is. I like it a lot. I mean, it also punishes the players, so it's something that the player has to think about. I mean, it punishes the other characters because they might get vile fluid on them. I love this archetype. I love the undead archetypes. They're fun. So, another ability that's in zombie abilities is Plague-Ridden. The zombie carries a plague that can create more of its own kind. This functions as the plague zombie's zombie rot, except at stage 5, the victim rises as another of the zombie's type, rather than a plague zombie. I think this would be interesting for the GM to give the player that has the archetype without making them take a feat for it, and without telling the player. At least the penalty of them rising up again. So like if the zombie character kills a monster, just let it go. They go on. And then later, that monster rises as like a Husk zombie and starts following the people that killed it because it remembers something about violence. Where do those people go? I don't like them. That would be so much fun. And it's something else that the zombie player would have to deal with. This is cool. So that's nice. And if you wanted to, you could just like not let it actually do the zombie rot, but like just give it a random chance if the zombie player kills a monster that it rises. Because you're a jerk. And it's fun. So in additional monster abilities of the Husk zombie, Unholy Speed. The zombie gains a +10 status bonus to all its speeds. This is uncommon in role-playing games and media. Well, okay, not media, because there's been like a higher amount of really fast-running zombies in the last several years. I don't know why, but whatever. But in some role-playing games, the players that are undead can choose abilities that make them faster. It's really just going with the concept of death is not held to earthly physics. And this creature is embodied with death. So it's not really they're more muscular, it's that they are spiritually swift. Like the essence animating them allows them to skip spaces in front of them. So it might look like jerky motions, but they're like moving in like little snapshots. Like they appear and disappear. Anyway, if you do this, I'd probably have that be like probably an 8th level feat. Like, I would prefer it be earlier because it's convenient, but 10th maybe even. But still, it would be a useful feat. That's all it does, but it's still great. Okay, so there are other additional monster abilities from the Book of the Dead. Infested. The zombie's flesh is infested with swarming vermin. When the zombie is hit with a critical hit or destroyed, the swarm is set free. Its initiative is immediately after the zombies, blah, blah, blah. If the swarm is 4 or more levels lower than the zombie, it isn't worth XP. That doesn't matter. So this would be a fun ability for a player to get in the archetype, just so that they get to do a little bit more damage, sure, but it's also really great for flavor. I mean, it's not going to be anything that tilts the battle in one way or another, so this could be at like level 2, level 4. Maybe level 2 is too early for some people, I don't care. It's just a swarm. Yeah, okay. At those levels, it will do significant damage, but it's only if they're hit with a critical hit. And they're taking a feat. I think it's fine. If you really want to push it, you can take it at 6th level instead. And then it's really not all that wonderful anymore, but it's still good. It's still useful. This next one I'm a little iffy about. It's Spitting Zombie. The zombie spits acid as a ranged strike with a range of 30 feet. This uses the highest attack bonus among the zombie strikes and deals 1d12 acid damage per 3 levels of the zombie, or 1d6 acid damage below level 3. On a critical hit, the target also takes 1d4 persistent acid damage per 3 levels of the zombie. Once used, the zombie must spend 1 action to cough up enough acid to use this ability again. I think this is fine, but instead of doing the persistent acid, I would require a fortitude save of the target, or they are sickened, like a lot of the other zombie archetype abilities are and do. So it is fun. It's a weird option that somebody could choose. Like, they're not going to base their character around this. It's just going to be a fun option with tons of nasty flavor. Okay, so for the Spitting Zombie, what kind of level would that be? 1d12 acid per 3 levels. Yeah, okay. I guess I would probably say it's per 5 levels. So I guess I would make it like level 6, at least. And then you just do 1d12. Yeah, I think that's okay. I mean, I guess it could be lower if you wanted to. I don't see any reason to make it higher, because, like, the zombie is based around doing melee. So they probably won't even use this. This is just for niche times when they really need a ranged attack, and they're not a caster or somebody who's really proficient with a ranged weapon. So it's not going to be frequently used, so it doesn't really matter if it's a little bit more powerful, because it's a just-in-case button. All right, now the segment of flavor infusion. So you're a zombie. That is wide open to different ideas of role-playing flaws and weirdness you could give yourself. Like, you have to sleep in wormy earth, so you carry a bucket of worms with you everywhere just to make sure that you can rest. Or you have to eat grave dirt, or you have to eat tombstone dust. So you have to powder tombstones and keep that on you and add it to your food. Not that you have to eat otherwise. Actually, I guess you do. That's weird. Yeah, you just sprinkle some seasoning on that brain. It can also be other things, like you really like spicy food because you've lost your sense of taste. And that's like the only thing that you taste. You know, like iZombie. It's a good show. Very inspiring for this. Or like maybe you eat insects, or you breathe out toxic clouds everywhere you go. So, I mean, it doesn't have to kill people or hurt them, but they're completely offended by you. They don't want to be anywhere near you. And feel free to come up with other feats for the archetype that are just way out there, but have something to do with the dead. Like maybe you can rip a bone out of your body and stab people with it, like the skeleton's ancestry feat. You can look at the skeleton's ancestry feats as options as well. Even like taking off your head and throwing it, because it's weird. Dude, what are you doing? I love that I've been able to tell you about this today. Thank you for joining me. This has been a lot of fun. I love the Undead series. Obviously, I'm going to be making characters based on these too, and I have so much to say about the mummy. Anyway, if you want to make sure to catch the next one, hit subscribe and notification bell so you'll get notified when I make those. And I appreciate you watching, but also I appreciate you guys commenting. And of course, liking and subscribing and sharing. But I mean, I love the engagement. So if you have any opinions about this, or you just want to tell me shut my big fat face and I'm wrong, totally cool. I love talking about this stuff. And thank you to all of my patrons. I appreciate you guys. For everyone else, I release unique videos on Patreon. I do giveaways, and the highest levels of patronage get one-on-one time with me and something made for them once a month. It's pretty fun. And if you'd like to help me out in this channel, you can click on the link in the description for Patreon, or you can join the channel now. There's a join button. I actually have the join, join the channel. It's so cool. It's like I'm a real YouTuber now. I grew up, I got big boy pants. Okay, thanks for being here. Loot says, I love you, but fucking feed me.
Bye-bye.
This is so gross.